This is Your Own Best Company, a podcast and community for creative people who value and enjoy working alone. Welcome, everyone, to Your Own Best Company. This is a podcast and a community for people who love working alone. My name is Franklin Taggart, and this was my idea. And the big reason that I wanted to do this podcast is because I am a person who absolutely adores working alone. I love nothing better than to have a room with a door and all of my creative tools at my disposal, and a lot of time to be able to be with my inner world. And the person that you're going to meet today, I'm not sure if that's her MO or not. Jillian, is that the way you work?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. I love hearing it defined so beautifully.
Well, Jillian Lee Antinora is my guest today, and this is kind of an interesting story because there are a lot of facets to what Jillian does in her life, not least of which is that she's a mother of 6 children. And she also, along with her husband, owns 2 Subway stores, and she is also a realtor. But the thing that we're going to be talking about most today is that sometime here in the last couple of years, she's realized a long-time dream of recording an album of her own songs. And this is an exciting thing, and I just kind of wanted to get into how that all came about and why it came about and some of the steps that you took, Jillian, to get there. But before we go into that, I just want to welcome you.
Oh, thank you so much, Franklin. I am so happy to be with you. And I've loved learning about your podcast and loved hearing different podcasts you've done and hearing your guests. And I'm thrilled to get to be a part of this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, it's my delight and pleasure. And I'm excited also for people to just hear a little bit about your journey. Starting with that, your original creative training was in performing arts. You were more of a stage performer, actress and dancer and musical theater. That was your background. How did you get interested in that?
That was from when I was little. I was just one of the little, I was very shy, painfully shy, which is probably one of the reasons I like working alone. Very introverted and painfully shy as a child. But when it was just my mom, I was quite the little performer, and I would always want to make her laugh and love to dance. And so I started dancing when I was in grade school, and studied ballet more seriously when I was in junior high and high school. And my mom was kind of the one to pull me out of my shell when there was just like school talent contests. And she just had to say, you just have to get out there and do it. And I said, okay. I wouldn't even perform it really in front of anyone else in my family. It was really just my mom got to see that I loved to perform. So she really said, just get out there and do it. And the more I was dancing on stage, it moved to musical theater because I love to sing as well.
Well, ultimately, it became a career in New York.
Yes, it did. I did a lot of auditioning in New York. With musical theater, you get to be in New York for your time of your sublet. You're there for a few months. You audition like crazy. You pray you make it into something before the sublet's over, and you go wherever the work is. And it was great, though. New York's exciting. It's just fun to be in that world. And part of that was just a dream realized, after watching Fame and A Chorus Line. And, I just wanted to walk down the streets of New York and have my dance bag and, my music binder. And it was really fun just to be in that world for a little while. But the reality is you need work. And so I just went where the work was. And so cruise ships, Minneapolis, Ohio. Minneapolis was my longest period of time doing theater steadily. And it was so fun. It really suits my personality.
How long did that part of your career path last?
It was for a while. I went to New York when I was 17, and I did musical theater professionally for about 10 years, but I got married when I was 23. I continued to do work on cruise ships, and then I did some work here in Colorado in theater. So I always tried to keep it alive. It was just hard after having kids, that nightlife, leaving kids to go. I wasn't ready to do that. When I tried it a couple times, I thought, oh, I don't think I can keep this up until they're older, But but I really was involved in it for about 10 solid years.
What brought you to Colorado?
My family. I grew up in Colorado Springs for junior high and high school, and my sister and my mom and dad were here, and my husband's family was here. So we had been in Sicily for 3 years, and because my husband was a pilot in the Navy, and we were stationed in Sicily, which was fantastic, and had 2 kids. He got out of the Navy, and we decided to be by family. So we moved to Fort Collins because that's where my sister was. And it's fantastic.
So after he left the service, then is that when you both started the Subway franchises?
Yes, we purchased one here in Fort Collins.
Yeah.
And because he had always thought about doing business ownership, and we thought, let's give it a try. We had saved up while he was in the military, because it was just a steady paycheck, and we thought, let's give this a try. So he went from, landing on aircraft carriers to making a Subway sandwich in a Walmart. So
yeah.
I was proud of him for not being afraid to do something new after a good career. And for me, it gave me a chance to do some work that was at home. I did the books, I did the payroll, and we had more and more little kids.
Yeah.
And so, but it was nice. As a mom, it's not always easy to find work that you can do and still be with your kids. So I was happy to just contribute in some way that was adult and not just toddlers. It was nice to have work, and to feel like I was doing something productive really worked for me. And work that was on a computer in my own little room, which was great.
So over the next decade, then, you had 6 children. Mm-hmm. You both were, working and operating the 2 sandwich shops. Mm-hmm. And at some point, you decided to go into real estate. How did that happen?
That happened. We've always tried to stay one step ahead, just in case. Yeah. Because with businesses, you just never know. And my husband had always thought of doing commercial real estate, just so for investment purposes and to understand it. And whatever he did, I kind of followed along because I could, I was like, oh, great. Subways, let's give it a shot. Real estate, okay. So he went and did real estate because the Subways were doing well enough. We hired a supervisor, and he was taking care of the stores. And then, so my husband had the freedom to do a different kind of work. So he went into commercial real estate. And then after doing that for a while, and I was pregnant with our 6th kid, I was like, housing market here is pretty great. We should do residential. And I was like, and if we do residential, I might as well get my license too, and we could have our own company. Yeah. So boom, we made our own company. And I got my license. I think I took my test like in between nursing. I think Clara was a week old. I went and took the real estate exam, did it, and we started. And that was 6 years ago. And now he went to a bigger commercial real estate company. Wow. And CBRE in town. And I took over Antinora Real Estate. So it's just me, which I love.
Yet another solo business. Huh?
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Well, so the thing that just boggles my mind is that in between all of this, you started to get a spark for singing, songwriting, taking guitar lessons, and putting that all together in a new direction. Now, I'm just, first of all, I don't know how you found the time to do it, or the gumption, because, I have one child and I was exhausted for years when he was young. And it's like, my music career actually kind of ended when he came along.
Exactly. Yes. Because you were fortunate enough to have it before he came along. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right. Well, I guess I got it out of my system while I still was young and not so tired. But
Yes.
so tell me a little bit about how did you, how did this spark happen?
After having Clara, so she was number 6, and I had a feeling that may be it as far as having kids. And I think I was 36, 37 when I had her. And there's something about that stage of life, it's just nearing 40 and I don't know if it's I'm going to speak especially for women here, but I'm sure it's everybody. But that feeling of, gosh, I would like to do some things still. I love my kids and they certainly take enough time, but I knew that I could handle being a mom and still doing some things that I always wanted to do, because being a mom and all the other work was really bonus for me. It's not what I ever pictured.
Yeah.
I always pictured performing and figured I may never get married or have kids. And, and so that was never in my mind. It's wonderful, but it really kind of was icing on the cake. And I was like, okay, well, now I got to get back to that cake part where I want to still do this thing that I always thought I would do. And just, I looked at it as kind of, I'd taken a hiatus, and so I auditioned again for theater, and doing that, it made me think, no, I've got to find something else. And realizing with theater, I love performing, but it doesn't satisfy the creative part of me. It satisfied the fun of dancing and singing and being in front of an audience. But the creative side, I really wanted to write and perform songs. But I had owned a guitar for 20 years and had never played it. And I thought, gosh, if I learned the guitar, I could write songs and perform kind of a little more on my own schedule rather than like a production contract at a big theater where I have to do what their schedule. And thought, okay, I wonder if I could do that. Yeah. I should get a guitar teacher and take some lessons and see if I could make this happen. And so it was really out of, I needed it. You find time when you need it. And even if the time is you miss a couple hours of sleep, it was worth it. It was worth it to stay up late and write and have that quiet time. It was more important to me than other things. All of a sudden I just took that as the priority. Yeah. And once I started, it feeds the desire to turn it into something.
Yeah. So you'd had that guitar for 20 years. And had you ever taken lessons before?
No, okay. I hadn't taken lessons. I truly just sat with it on my lap, pretending like I knew how to play the guitar.
But then taking lessons just helped you to, get a little bit more confident and competent.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And learn how to write a song. I'd written a lot as far as just words, kind of poetry, but hadn't really learned how to put a song together.
Yeah.
So it was huge.
Songwriting is a craft all its own, and I'm really curious too about what were some of the important stages of your development as a songwriter?
Gosh, good question. I don't know if I've ever thought about it. I think step one was just to have some method to when I was writing words down, to have a goal of you need to come up with a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus, just even when I was writing, to have some rhythm, to my words and when I was writing. And when I was learning chords, I really just sat and took the 3 chords I knew and was like, okay, then this is what I'll use, And I usually am words first. I'm usually more, lyrics driven when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And so I'm usually inspired by things that I'll read by hearing other songs. Usually a line will stand out to me, or even a thought about what I'm reading, but it will usually start with something like a line, just a sentence or something, or a few words. And especially if I'm reading something and there are words in it that I like, I just start to write them down on a page, and then I incorporate them into a thought or a moment and I'm usually trying to capture a moment or a feeling.
Yeah.
And I'll incorporate different phrases or things that I heard or read that I liked the sound of, or liked the way the words went together. And then musically, I wish I was more complex musically, but I would really just be like, we're starting on G. Now, what are the chords I'm going to use if I'm starting on G? And I really write it. I map it out very simply, because I'm much more of a singer than I am a guitarist. When I'm playing the guitar, I'm like, my purpose is to accompany my singing. And so maybe someday I'll be good enough on that guitar to be inspired and be able to play and have something come out of it. But it's usually, I just pick where I want to be, where I want to start, and then I map it out. I really just sit with a notebook and my pen and go, if I'm in this key, what chords am I going to use? What sound do I want?
Yeah.
And sit down and work it out. That like a puzzle. I really put it just together like a puzzle, and then tighten it up and fill in, which is really fun. It's fun to have a project like that. I really enjoyed having a project, Some things will spill out and you get almost there in the first sit down.
Yeah.
But most will be just a few lines, and I have to painstakingly put the rest of it together and go back and tweak it a little bit. But what a fun thing to work on. When I'd say I have to take time for myself to work on this, it was easier to say I need time to work on something than it is just to say I need time. Even though that's maybe not fair, but it was easier to ask for it. It was easier to say I have something to do, that's for me, rather than I just want to sit around, which sometimes I would, but I liked having a place to put my thoughts, Well,
one of the things that I wonder is, what were some of the moments when you really internalized, this is something that I can do. This is something that I can be good at.
Mm-hmm. Gosh. I think when I played a couple of songs that were pretty complete for my guitar teacher, and he said, that's good. I just needed someone to say it was good.
Yeah.
Someone besides my family.
Right.
Sometimes family's extra generous and you're like, oh, they're my family. They say it's good. Sometimes they're the most critical, like don't play something for your kids if you're worried about, your self-esteem, like that's awful.
Yeah.
But I needed someone who knew what they were doing to listen and say, yeah, that's good. And I would say, are you sure? Do I need to do anything else? What about the ending? What about and he just said, no, that's it. That's the song. It's good. And I really needed just at least one person who I considered an expert enough, in the area to tell me, good job, you did it. That's all it takes. Keep doing that. I needed someone to say, that's what you do it 100 more times,
Yeah. So just having a feedback loop that you felt was, a good enough authority that you could trust what they were saying.
Yep.
All
yeah.
Right.
That's what I needed.
Now, the interesting thing to me going further with this is that most people who start out in a songwriting direction start out kind of in an opposite direction of what you've gone, in that they'll go out and they'll play open mics for years and years, and they'll go out and they'll they'll write really bad songs for a while, and they'll go out and just slog for years, trying to just, figure out, first of all, figure out the craft and figure out how to do it. You're doing it backwards from that. And that is that you ultimately said, hey, I've got some songs that I really like. Why don't I record them?
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
That came about because, well, I don't know if it's my fear of not being perfect when I'm in front of people.
Yeah.
I have a massive, I get very obsessive about preparing and being just right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure because of theater and dance, I mean, we practiced like crazy. So I was never one to get out there and wing it. I really needed to feel solid before wanting to be in front of an audience.
Yeah.
I've had to let go of some of that. I did a lot of winging it in auditions, fell flat on my face often when I tried to wing it. But so I'm always someone who wants to feel prepared.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's a bit of my introvertedness as well. Like I'm not ready to put myself out there unless I feel like I really know what I'm doing. And I've practiced it so many times, that fear is there. And that I think maybe I don't know if it makes a difference that I'm older and wanting to feel like, gosh, if I go out there, I don't have the excuse of it being like, oh, they're young and they're just out there giving this a shot. I was like, ooh, I look like I should have been doing something for a while. I better do this a little more. And I wanted to, with the choosing to record first, I wanted to feel a little bit legitimate. Maybe I needed a little more of that expert to tell me, that's good, that's worth playing. And so like Darren at Stout Studios, he was like, yeah, that's good. They're good songs. I was like, really? Great. I needed someone else to kind of reassure me. And so I wish there wasn't fear involved in this decision, but I'm sure it is driven by some just fear of getting out there before having enough people telling me, yep, it's worth get out there in front of people. And, but it was also COVID.
Yeah.
So because of that, nothing was going on,
Right.
And it was a lot of time where I was going to lose my mind. I mean, that was when kids had been at home and schooling from home. And I think every mother was having a nervous breakdown daily, And so for me, I was like, oh goodness, I'm going to start doing this. I'm just going to go to a studio and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And a studio is a very safe place. That felt very safe and comfortable and fun. And I just loved it. Whereas a stage, even though I love being on stage, much more vulnerable, much more vulnerable than that comfy studio, So it was a great, comfortable place to start and give me that feeling of, okay, legitimacy, before going out in front of live audiences.
But there are some things that I think that you did right that a lot of people don't. And I'd like to highlight those before we go on.
I'd love to hear them.
First one is that you hired a teacher for guitar lessons. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people just try to teach themselves or try to get on YouTube and learn things that way. And that's okay. And if you hire a teacher, your learning curve goes way down and real fast. So I think that was one of the things that you did right. The second thing that you did right was that you weren't afraid to share your songs with somebody outside of your family.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I really feel like a lot of people get hung up on that one step of, I can do it here in my room, but getting anywhere else in front of another person and singing for them is a very vulnerable place. And you found a way to do that. So I think that was another check mark in the checklist of things. The other thing that I really feel like that you did right was that you decided to go to a professional studio before you tried to do it yourself in your bedroom with GarageBand. And there's nothing wrong, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but your learning curve for, learning how to record yourself and getting to a place of competence with recording, which is a whole nother skill set on top of what you're already doing with playing and songwriting and singing. Hiring that out was really a smart thing to do. So those are some things that if I were giving a checklist to somebody who wanted to start a songwriting career late in their life or later in their life after the children were a certain age, those are some things that I would say, hey, you know what, you want to shorten your distance between here and there. Here are the things to do. Now the thing that I'm really interested to hear is the recording process is one of these things that you're hearing something and it's almost like you're looking at something under a microscope. You can hear every imperfection and you can hear everything about your playing that you don't like. How did you get through that?
It was easier than I was thinking it would be.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because it was the first time. So I was just thrilled about all of it. Where now I'm more critical because I've listened to them enough. I'm like, oh, well, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. But at the beginning, I was just so thrilled with the entire process.
Yeah.
And I was so excited with the sound because it was all new. That's the beauty of it, of not having done it before. The thrill of it being new is that I get excited about new things, and I'm usually more excited than I am critical.
Yeah.
The first time around. Now I'm nervous about the second. I'm going to start recording again in a couple of weeks. And I thought, okay, don't be too critical. Learn, take from your mistakes, but don't be too critical. Because the first time, I'm not usually that critical. I'm just excited to do it. Excited that, oh, that sounds great. I just thought, oh, that sounds great. And everything that Darren added, I was just thrilled with each instrument he did, and I was excited to get to do harmonies, and so I was just thrilled about all of it. It was just the excitement of first time, and now it'll be really interesting to see how it goes with the next one, to not get overly to learn and be better, but to not get overly critical, you know.
Now, you and I are both members of the Darren Raddick fan club at Scout Studios. Darren's a very, very well respected and experienced recording engineer and producer here in the Fort Collins area. And I'm curious, what were the things that you enjoyed most about working with him?
Well, he was just a pleasure. I mean, every bit of it. When I came in, it was very comfortable. First he got back to me right away, when I just, step one in so many things is just to send an email or make a phone call. And it's so funny that something can be on your list for months. And finally you're like, I'm just going to send an email to Stout Studios because I didn't know Darren. And I just sent out my email going, okay, what's the worst that can happen? He doesn't have any availability or says, no, you can't come here and record. I had no idea what to expect. And he was just kind and welcoming, got me in right away. And when I met with him, he was just so relaxed and told me that everything could be done. Like everything that I was hoping for, he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then told me everything he was going to add, which was just awesome to me, that he's like, yeah, I think I'll listen and see where I can add things. And for me, like, to go from sitting in your living room, writing out your little song, to have someone who's a professional say, I'm going to listen and I'm going to find what I can add to your song, is so great. It's someone saying they're going to add to your little thing that you wrote and make it better. And I just thought that was terrific. And I loved what he added. And he was complimentary to me. It made me relax. It made me confident. And so he created just the right environment for me, and then added so much to it, and then was very encouraging when I was saying, I'd really like to put this out there. And he was like, go for it. And he helped me with photos. He helped me do a video, like, interview. that I could post on, Facebook and YouTube. And he just really encouraged everything. And so that was, who doesn't love encouragement,
Oh, that's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I won't give my own experience of working with Darren, but it was equally positive and enjoyable. I love the guy. He's a real wonderful resource for musicians in this area.
Yeah, he is.
I'd like to shift gears a little bit. I'd like you to tell me, of the people who know you best, what would they say would be 3 words that best describe your mindset?
Oh, gosh, good question. My mindset. Positive.
Yeah.
Not much gets me down.
That doesn't come across at all.
That was an awesome face. Oh, I'm always positive. Okay, so that's one word. Oh, gosh, I'm committed.
Yeah.
I'm committed. If I decide I want to do something, I usually do it. I usually do it.
Yeah.
Pretty lighthearted. I don't, I'll be self-critical a lot. I can sometimes get paralyzed with that. Probably we all can, but I can brush things off pretty quickly to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I can usually okay, if whatever which I think maybe that comes also from performing in lots of auditions, you have to brush it off. If someone doesn't like what you do or how you look or how you sound or whatever, it could be, and you just have to go, that's okay. That, you just keep moving forward. And disciplined. I'm really disciplined.
Yeah.
Which will come with the commitment of, if that's what it takes, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
I don't usually say, I'm going to take the easy way. I mean, we all do that a little bit sometimes, but I never usually stick with it. If it requires a little bit of discipline, I will add the discipline to my schedule to make sure I can get things in, because I'll be very dream oriented or goal oriented. That's what will drive me.
Good.
And so if I'm driven for it, I'll do what it takes to get there,
Yeah. So let's say that someone's listening to this who's a woman of an age somewhere in the 40s,
mm-hmm.
and she's gotten to a point in child raising that she's got a little bit more time for herself and her own passions. What would you tell her to start? Where would you tell her to start?
I actually wrote different things down here to think of a how-to,
Mm-hmm.
of how to do this. I'd start with taking a little bit of alone time to really think, really, and don't waste it. Don't waste the alone time. I mean, I love movies. I love, just vegging out sometimes, but you can't do it for too long. If you really want to accomplish something, take the alone time to really sit and be with yourself, or go for a walk, or take time to be in your own space, in your own mind, and think about what would excite you.
Yeah.
What gets you excited, and more than just a trip to the Caribbean or something, you know what I mean? What excites you, that's an accomplishment that you could do, what's a dream, and really think about it, and then I'm a big list writer. I would sit down and say, during that alone time, start writing down different dreams that have you always wanted to fly a plane? Have you ever wanted to, write a song, sail a boat, whatever the dream is, write it down so that it makes it a little real, a little closer to real. And write down as many as you have, even if it's a long list, don't limit it because it sounds silly or something, write it down as if you're the only one who will ever read this list. Don't be self-conscious about what you put out there. And then methodically figure out how you would make some of those dreams happen and see which ones are most realistic for maybe this stage in your life. Some can wait for a little bit later, maybe, and look at the ones that look like they could be within reach, and then work yourself backwards on what would that take. My dream was, I want to be on a big stage playing my guitar, singing my songs. Okay, well, I don't know how to play the guitar, so I guess I gotta start there. Which truly was it. I pictured myself with a guitar on a stage and had to realistically go, okay, well, I'm not going to not write that down. I'm not going to not think of that. I'm going to think, what do I need to do to get there? And step one, well, I guess I need to learn to play the guitar. So let me look up teachers. And, to where I'd work backwards from the big down to the little. And if there's anything in you that's saying, oh, you don't have time to take a guitar lesson, it's like 30 minutes. I'll bet you do, but you do have time. And it's not that much money. I mean, everyone's coming from different places, but I'll bet you could find a little bit of time and money to do some of those steps that could get you to the next step.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's, I would start with writing down something that seems big and possibly unachievable or silly, especially this age. And having kids, sometimes you could think, there's really nothing else I can do. And, or people would think it's silly, or I'm past that, and of course you're not, if it's in you, you are probably not past it if the desire is there. And you could do it at lots of different levels. There's lots of things you could do at lots of levels, and so to not talk yourself down or out of things and bring the big, don't be afraid to say the big stuff and then work it down to something small that you can do each day, or once a week or however, and you can find the time. You can absolutely find the time to do it.
That's great advice. Great advice. Well, I'm going to put my booking agent hat on now, and I'm going to tell the world that Jillian is looking for opportunities to perform. And we're not looking for opportunities that are they're certainly not 3-hour bar gigs. And they're not gigs where people are primarily in the venue to drink and not listen to music. We're really looking for gigs for Jillian where her songs can be heard and really enjoyed by people. So the thing that I'm going to put out there is that I really feel like Jillian would benefit from somebody who maybe is a music minister at a church that has a really positive message. She would be a great guest musician for your church. I would also put out there that Jillian would be a great presenter for something like a Rotary Club or a luncheon or something like that. She's got a compelling story and she's got beautiful music to augment that story as well, and vice versa. She's got beautiful music and a great story. So if you're looking for a great speaker or presenter that has a musical side to her, Jillian is perfect for that. So the other thing that I would suggest is that if you are somebody who hosts a songwriting event, like a songwriter's circle or a songwriter's night, or a listening room of any kind, that Jillian would be a great person for you to have in your venue. So I'm going to have my booking agent spiel over with one last thing, and that is to hear Jillian's music, you need to go to JillianLeeAntinoramusic.com. Now, if you have trouble spelling that, it's going to be a hot link in the description, and it should be on the screen for those of you who are watching the video. Jillian, anything that you would add to what I just said?
Gosh, I'm just thrilled that you just said all that, Franklin. I'm so pleased that you have your booking agent hat on. What could I add? Well, I just love to sing and play. Whoever listens it and likes it, give me a call. So, yeah, I'm thrilled to get to share it.
in the conversation we had the other day, you said that you were already working on the next recording.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
you've got more to come.
I
And
do. Yes.
but
About 10 more songs in the works.
your debut has already been released. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and where people can find it?
Oh, yes. It's called Make My Day, and named after one of the songs on the album. It's 7 songs and pretty upbeat and fun. And you can find it Amazon, iTunes, Spotify. I've got videos on YouTube. So most anywhere you'd go looking for music,
Yeah.
it'll be there. And on my website as well. It can be purchased at JillianLeeAntinoramusic.com as well.
Well, the words that you use to describe your mindset also come through your music, and I wanted to highlight that your songs do have a very uplifting quality to them and a very positive frame of mind. They're the kind of song that you would want to listen to if you want to get yourself into a really good performing mood or a really good feeling mood for whatever it is that you've got to do in your day. So if you're looking for some really uplifting music that's going to make you feel better, Jillian's got it.
Yay.
So
thank you so much, Franklin.
This has been so much fun, Jillian, and I can't believe an hour's flown by.
I know. I think I could chat with you all day. I would have stayed on that meeting we had before doing this. I was like, I think I could have just sat and talked all day if you wanted to hang out.
Well, I'm not opposed to that. But for the sake of our listeners, we do need to bring this to a close. Again, JillianLeeAntinora.music.com. And I do want to remind people that you also have a Facebook page for your music. Is there another place, Instagram or anything like that you have for your music?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Working on Instagram. It'll be soon. It'll be there soon. I've got to talk to my marketing lady and find out about it.
And you do have a YouTube channel that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So
I'm probably
people
going to
can
get your
find
help
you.
on that.
Oh, very good. So YouTube's coming up, and she's got a few videos already out there. But on her music website, there are some wonderful videos, both of her music and interview style videos as well. So, Jillian, thank you again for being a guest on Your Own Best Company. Anything you want to say in parting?
I just want to say thank you to everyone, and I hope you love the music. I hope you love it.
Excellent. Thank you, Jillian.
Thank you, Franklin.
People who work alone aren't antisocial, at least not most of us. If people think you're weird because you don't want to grow a big company and you'd rather spend most of your time working by yourself, you're just hanging around the wrong people. Your Own Best Company has a Facebook group that you're invited to join right now. We understand the urge to close the door, let your imagination run wild, and stay there until your creative impulse runs its course. We also understand the features and challenges that go along with running a business to support our solo flight lifestyles. Joining the group is free, and it's as easy as clicking the link in the channel description. So go there now and just join the group. Want to hear more where this came from? Subscribe to Your Own Best Company on your favorite podcast app or on the Franklin Taggart Coaching and Consulting YouTube channel. To get in touch with Franklin, send an email to yobc@franklintaggart.com. Thanks for listening.